What happens to us after we die? Do we cease to exist? Are we judged for our actions and sent to the pearly gates or the fiery pit? Or do we live on? Is it possible that we are on an endless journey for knowledge and self-improvement? Or is this place that we call Earth our eternal punishment? This is what we'll attempt to document. Welcome to the regression session. My name's Ian, and welcome back to the regression session. Today we'll be hearing from Taylar, who I've personally regressed several times. Taylar was able to go very deep into a trance and experienced very vivid detail in her regression. She'll also be talking about what it was like for her to be regressed and go under a trance, and I'm excited to hear her talk about it on the show. If you've had an experience and you'd like to be on the show, or if you'd like for me to tell your story and not be on the show, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com. So without any further ado, we'll jump right into Taylar's story. Hey Taylar, thanks for coming on to the show.
Yeah. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for the audience, Taylar, I have regressed Taylar personally myself multiple times, and every time we've done it, it's been super, super interesting. And I just kind of like you, Taylar, to just kind of jump right into it and start off by tell me a little bit about your beliefs and your belief systems that you had before going into these regressions.
Well, I don't know if I really had any beliefs about the afterlife, except for that when we die, we're just, gone. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. It's not very fanciful of me, is it?
No, it's totally fine. That's actually pretty common, believe it or not, that a lot of people just kind of think that once we die, we just move on, or disappear rather.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I feel like it's kind of a comforting belief because, sometimes it's like, oh, I have to do more after I die.
Well, I mean, for me personally, it's not as comforting. I would rather that there be something. I don't want to stop existing.
Hmm,
It could just be instinct though.
maybe. I think it's comforting to know that there might be nothing after.
I'm sure that there's other people out there that agree with you. And
Well,
you might be right. You might be right.
hopefully for your sake, there is something after.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think there is. I think
Mhm.
there is. Um, tell us a little bit of background, about you and how, as far as these beliefs, how you came by them, and then tell us a little bit about leading up into the experience, and then just feel free to just go ahead and talk about your experience.
Okay. Well, I was raised in in a religion that believed there is life after death and that we would be born into a heaven of sorts. But I quickly left that faith at 18 and, just found my beliefs like, hey, wouldn't it be great instead of having more stuff to do after I've been doing all this other stuff to just have, a break of literally nothing. And, leading up to this experience, it was, if you're talking about what I was doing in my life, I was just, stressing about jobs and school, college. whatnot. So if you want me to start talking about the experience we
Yeah,
had.
just provide with, whatever context you want as to how your experience began, what made you interested in maybe trying it. Um, just any context that you'd like to provide, if any, and then just feel free to just go ahead and describe what happened, and just provide as many details as you can.
Yeah, well, my brother was super, super duper interested in well, he still is. He's super interested in past lives and whether or not, there is past lives. He's kind of like you in that regard. Yeah, for the listeners, me and Ian had talked about how he was super fascinated about past life regressions and how that would affect people in the lives they're living currently. So he's just like, sorry, 1 second. He's just really interested in that stuff. So he's like, you should try it. And I was like, okay, I'll try it.
So tell me, obviously I'm the one that regressed you. So tell
Right.
me, we did the Hall of Mirrors experiment, or method, I guess you could call it, which is
Right.
my preferred method of doing that. For the audience, describe a little bit about, when you first went down into hypnosis, and what that was like and what you saw.
Well, the first time I was brought to a place that I found very comforting and that I felt was familiar. It was like a forest-esque, just scene where there was like a river running through the forest with a stone pathway, not like how in gardens they have like stones, like a couple in front of each other, like with like little patches of grass.
Yeah, like paving
It was
stones.
like, yeah, like stepping stones. Is that what you said?
More or
Sorry, I'm a
less.
little nervous.
No. It's totally fine. It's just think of it as just you and me having a conversation. There's nobody listening right now. So
Yeah, hopefully. Don't know about ghosts. Just kidding. But yeah, so there was a bunch of trees. My family always went, camping. So trees and mountains have always been comforting. So there was a bunch of woodlands and then a huge mountain. And then I followed the pathway. And there was so what's that place called? Stonehenge. Stonehenge?
yeah, Stonehenge.
Thank you. It was like Stonehenge. There was a bunch of those rock formations around this huge like monolith of stones that like pierced out of the ground into sharp points that created a cave. And then on the sides of it were two pillars, like from Greek history, like Greek architecture, with the one on the left had a black like marble circle on it, like orb. And then the one on the left had a white orb on it. And there was a figure standing next to the one with the black orb. And it wasn't like, it was like person shaped, but it was completely, it was like, it was like a shadow, like, but with no like hair wisps or clothes wisps or anything like that. Just like an outline of human that was completely filled in with black.
And how do you feel about this figure or this person? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. Ask any questions you feel you need to for clarification. It wasn't like they were hostile or anything like that. They actually seemed like they were super friendly. Because after I had gotten into the scene, they let me look around for a second, just get my bearings, and then they reached out their hand for me. And, I didn't see myself take their hand, but I felt myself grab it, and then they led me down. Of course, that was my first experience. And when you did the regression for me a couple of times, it was actually different. This place that I got brought to every time was different for me.
Right. Yeah. Every time it was largely different. But what was that person? Did that person or figure, was that the same every time, or was it different?
Um, it was the same a couple of times. The second time it happened, like the place was different. I was standing in like a glass ocean. Like it was like every, it was like a dome. Sorry, it's a little hard to explain. It was like a dome. This might not be important, but it was like the place was different. And the person, instead of being a black outline of like a tall person, it was like a little kid. And you could see really long flowing hair. And it was the same thing, but it was like completely white light, shaped like a person. And they seemed like toddler sized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Perfect. Take us into the Hall of Mirrors. When we went into the Hall of Mirrors, tell us what that experience was like.
Uh, it actually wasn't that. It was a little crazy. The first time, like you said, it was a hallway full of a bunch of different mirrors. All of them, all different shapes, sizes, like framework in it. Some of them didn't have frames. Some of them were cracked and broken. Some of them were shattered on the ground. Some of them were squares, some circles, some oval. Some of them were really, really weird shaped. That was the first time. And then the second time with the smaller figure, who also felt friendly. I don't know if I said that they felt friendly to me.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. The second time it was like I walked into a pyramid, like a glass pyramid that reflected the outside of the dome I was in. I didn't finish explaining the dome, but it was like super clear water. I was standing on top of it. Maybe a half inch past my feet is where the water hit. And then I saw a huge glass pyramid reflecting like the dome ceiling, which was like clouds and blue sky. And the little figure was standing outside, and they led me in. And then in the second one, when they led me in, it was a completely black room. It felt like it wasn't like the first time when I just walked down into the hole that the sharp rocks had made, right? The second time, it was like I was hitting a wall full of jello, like pitch black jello. And I couldn't really, like, I don't know if you remember it when we regressed, I kept asking you to like help me focus better because I don't know what it was about that one.
Right.
But
You kept on saying that you felt like you were stuck in really thick, almost like jelly or jello.
yeah, like jello. It felt like I was hitting a wall of like jello. But I got through it, and then it was just a pitch black room. And then like it was kind of like in a museum. There was like a wall that stretched on forever, or as far as I could see. Excuse me. As far as I could see, picture frames. All of them were square. All of them were empty. All of them had plaques under them. Most of them were scratched out though. And they all had little lights shining down on the picture frames. The frames were different though, but they were all about the same size. And yeah, in the first time I went through, I saw people through the mirrors though.
Like
Um,
different reflections of yourself, or just different people standing in the mirrors?
like different people standing in the mirrors. Yeah, the first time I went through, I noticed, well, I only really noticed one person before we picked who we were going to regress into. So I noticed a really tall man. Um, he felt like a lumberjack, I guess. You know, the vibe you get from a lumberjack. Like, he was really tall. He had a big, thick red beard, really thick, curly red hair. Uh,
I can't say I've met very many lumberjacks.
it's just the feeling you get, like the paper towels brawny.
Oh,
Kind of just remind me of that guy.
there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw a glimpse of that man before we picked who we were gonna do. Like who I picked. You know. Um. The third time, the place was also different. I started out in the sunny area with the water, but I couldn't see the pyramid frickin' anywhere. Until I saw this huge towering staircase. I walked up the staircase and then I jumped off of like a high dive. And then I broke through the surface, and it was like the opposite of the top surface. It was like a nighttime sky with a nighttime pyramid in with it. And I think it might have also, sorry, I did make notes of this. I think it also had the small figure there instead of the tall one. Yeah.
That's really great. That's incredible, all the details that you were able to get. It's a really, really detailed experiences. Um, let's move into when you were drawn into the picture frame. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah. So in the first time I had a little bit of trouble because the picture frames were the second. I had a little bit of trouble, you know, picking a mirror the first time. And then the second time I walked in, and as soon as I saw the wall, I was like, I'm going into that one. I was super impatient about it, if you remember. I was just like, okay, I'm going in. And you were like, maybe you should wait. And I was like, nope, I'm going. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it
And
was almost like the mirror was drawing you in, or the picture frame, that is.
yeah. So I was just like, okay, I'm going. And I jumped through. I actually saw the plaque on the bottom of this picture. I remembered it after the fact though, like a little while later. It said Mathieu, and then it had a bunch of stuff scratched out, and then at the bottom it said 211 on it. I don't know if that's significant, but that was at the bottom of the picture frame. I remembered that a little bit later. So when I crawled through the picture frame, this, I'm very short. I was actually myself. And then when I got through the picture frame, I was the little girl, the spirit guide. I was in the form of her.
And do you identify this other figure, or this little girl, as a spirit guide, like a separate entity, or like just a manifestation of your consciousness?
I feel like it was separate. I don't feel like it was a part of me, but not me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that really makes sense. Like, I felt it was connected to myself, but it wasn't a part of me as a person.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, as much sense as it can make.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe that feeling with words. It kind of almost felt like having a significant other. Like, not that I was like in love with them or anything. That'd be weird. But it's like they are a part of me, but they are not me. You know?
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
I think that's the closest I could get to explaining what it felt like to see this being. I'm just saying spirit guide for the benefit of you and the listeners.
Just
Um,
because you don't have like anything else to call it, or that's because that's the sense you got?
um, I just don't have anything to call it. Like, I've heard stories about other people who have done past regressions, who have like, oh yeah, they told me their name, but I'm not going to tell you their name, but I know their name. But my spirit guide, if that's what I'm calling it, didn't tell me their name. They never spoke to me with like words. It was always just like a feeling or like gestures. It wasn't anything like spoken. It was always just like a feeling of like, hey, it's okay, you can go in, or hey, take my hand, let's go, or hey, this is not okay, don't do this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, so when I got into, sorry, I'm getting back into it. When I got in through the picture frame, I was in the form of my spirit guide, the little girl with the long, long hair. And she was just an outline. There was like no features or anything, just like the first one, but like a little girl. Um, and I saw a man standing there. And I immediately was like, oh, hey, I know this guy. It's Mathieu. Um, uh, and he was really tall. Uh, sorry, I did write these down. I should have taken better notes, I guess.
No, it's fine. And like I said, and I've said before, these experiences can be really confusing, and so
Mhm.
just take your time, and just whatever you want to tell, just feel free to tell your experience however you feel necessary, or whatever you want to share.
Ooh, that is okay. Thank you. It is a little confusing because at the front of this, I did write that the plaque was scratched. Oh, apologies. I'm so sorry. I got my notes mixed up. The part where everything was scratched out was a different thing. It's connected, but it's connected later. The plaque was scratched out with everything but 1961. I don't know what significance that actually has, because it felt like the regression had taken place in like the early to late to mid 40s, like the 1940s. I don't know why it said 1961. So when I got through, and I was a little girl, Matthew was standing there. He was really tall. He had parted hair. He was wearing a white shirt with black pants, really shiny shoes, black shoes, and he's wearing suspenders. Uh, his sleeves were rolled up to the elbow, and he was kind of just looking at me. And so I walked up to him, and he took both of my shoulders in his hands, and then I was looking through his eyes as Matthew. Uh, and then as soon as I saw the little girl standing in front of me, the scene shifted, and I was standing in the middle of a street. Everything was in black, like in like brown tones, like in like old black and white movies and TV shows, like from the 40s. It was in brown tones though, instead of black and white. So I was walking through the street with like a paper sack from a grocery store. It had a baguette in it. And in my notes, I have in parentheses, funny, which I don't know why I have that. but had a baguette and a bunch of like food cans, and he was going home to his apartment. And I remember specifically, he thought, I'm going back to my apartment to see Mina, who I immediately knew was his girlfriend at the time. They were living together though, which was looked down on, actually. It was really smelly there. He was standing in the middle of the street. There were cars, like really old, like 1940 cars, honking at him in the street. It smelled like this. Most significant like sense I had was the weight of the bag in my arm and the smell of nastiness. It just smelled really bad. So the cars were honking at me, and I got out of the street, and I noticed that there was a sign with like a play name on it. I couldn't read it though. It was like it had stuff like words of the shows that were playing, but it didn't. I couldn't read them. So people were really excited around me though. They were like really excited to go to this play. They weren't saying anything, but like you could see it. I know that at this point, he worked at a printing press, and that Mina, his girlfriend at the time, wanted to be a singer and a dancer, and that he wanted her to quit because she was super duper good, but the guy who hired her was super not nice to her. He didn't treat her like she should be treated, and one of her fellow dancers was very, very rude to her and did not treat her right, and was like always stealing her dresses or cutting up her dresses and breaking makeup and whatnot. And I know you probably don't know this, you being a dude, Ian, but makeup is very expensive.
Hey, I have a wife.
Yeah, I know
I
you.
understand.
Okay. Got a little nervous there. I thought maybe I was talking to nothing. You're being so quiet.
No, I'm still here.
Okay. So yeah, the person that was torturing Mina was named Francisca. And while Matthew was thinking about this, he was like, I really don't like her boss because I have a feeling he's in love with Mina. But she's only in love with me, and he doesn't like that. So he doesn't treat her right. And then as soon as these came in like scenes, like little like bursts of a scene in a movie. Like I was Matthew, but I was interacting as I would with Matthew, but it was like cut scene, new scene. You know how it is in like movies and stuff. At that point, you were asking me some questions, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to the next scene. I felt super impatient during this regression. I was like, as soon as you started asking me questions about like what's on the signboard, what kind of cars, I was like, okay, I'm going to the next scene. Bye. I was standing in front of my house. I had a house now. I was Matthew, sorry. I had a house in the suburbs. Oh, and I forgot to mention, he knew that he wanted to move out of the city because it was bad, but Mina liked it, so they stayed. But when I went to the house, it was like in a more suburban area, if that makes sense. Of course it makes sense. Anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So he was standing in front of his doorway, and he was just, you could feel such a weight over his heart, because because he knew he'd been drafted for the war. It was like 1942 or so. I don't know the exact dates. But he had been drafted to go into the war to fight Germans because it was World War II. And he walked into the door and it was like a little hallway, and it went straight to see Mina standing and doing dishes or cooking dinner or something. She was just doing something in the kitchen. And sorry, this part always gets me a little angry. She turned her face to look at me coming through the door, and I saw a huge scar running from her temple down to her lip. And it's because Francisca had taken a straight razor and cut up her face with it.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. I'm actually a very chill person. Like, it takes a lot to get me like super raging angry. But at that moment, I felt like such a rage. I could have killed something. And I said this phrase. I said, I know you remember it because it was very significant. I should have killed Francisca, grabbed the Tommy gun, and left her in a ditch.
It's pretty brutal. And that's not really something that I would expect you, knowing you, would to say. I mean, being the largely gentle person that you are.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have a lot of anger towards people. Like, I'm a very forgiving person. I've heard, I'm not trying to like compliment myself, but I've heard I'm pretty forgiving. And I've never actually wanted to kill somebody that I can think of currently. So when I said that, like, you seemed shocked, and
Yeah, it was significant.
yeah. So I saw that and I felt such a rage, and like it was so scary. It was a little scary actually how angry that made me feel. But moving on, I walked up to her and I was standing behind her, and she was humming a song, a little tune from when she was in her singing days, which was actually really significant in Matthew's mind, because it had been a while since she had been humming, because she was pretty devastated. She's like, it was from the time she got pregnant with their son, James, who at the point when he's standing behind her in the kitchen, he could see through the window playing with their dog. She didn't hum unless she was pregnant, because that was what made her happy, because she knew she had another kid on the way. And that was how Matthew found out that they were having another kid. The same day he got drafted, he found out that Mina was pregnant with their second kid. Pretty devastating, actually.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. You were very, very emotional about that.
Yeah, I actually didn't remember that she was pregnant until right near the end of the session. I was just saying, like, I was talking about James, their first son, because it was pretty significant, because after that, we were looking through the window at James. Oh, goodness. We were looking through the window at James, and Matthew started talking about how he would never hit his son, and that he had seen a man on the side of the road, whipping his son with a switch. And this is this is a direct quote. I regret not knocking his block off. And then we ended up talking about your son, if it's all right for me to mention that.
Sure.
Okay, we ended up talking about your son because he had fallen and we heard him fall. And Mathieu said to you, "Is that boy all right?" And you said that he was fine. And then that led up to the man hitting his son with a switch. And you asked him if he had ever hit his son, and he said, "I would never hit my son. You couldn't make me."
Yeah, and when I asked you that, something interesting to note for the listeners is that when I was talking to Taylar, it really felt like I was talking to a different person entirely. Mathieu got angry about me asking if he had ever hit his son.
Yeah, like super mad. I actually wrote down the quote of what he said. He said, "You couldn't force me. I would never do that. You couldn't force me." And he
was
actually
almost
kept,
offended. Oh,
yeah,
sorry about that.
he was really offended at you, actually. Like, he was like kind of angry that you'd even think he would hit his kid. Yeah, you could feel a lot of love for his son and his wife. Like, every time he even thought about Mina, like, he got really happy and then really sad. Sad because of what happened to her at this point, because, he loved her so much. So at that point, he started crying because, he remembered that he was going to have to leave his family to go be in the war. And he kept apologizing specifically to you, Ian, if you remember. He kept saying, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to cry. I'm sorry." And you said, "It's all right. It's okay to cry." And he said, "Not in this time, my boy. Men are not allowed to have feelings in my time." It was really sad.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It really does feel like you're talking to other people sometimes if you go deep enough into these regressions.
Yeah. And then he went on to talk about how he actually wanted to take on Mina's last name because she actually had one, because he had run away from home when he was a kid because he felt like his dad was going to kill him, because I don't know specifically why his dad was going to kill him, but I had a feeling it had to do with something he was doing with his mom. Like, I think he might have been like trying to get her to go to like women's rights meetings. I'm not 100% sure though, so I don't want to like put that out there as fact. But I have a feeling that that's kind of what was happening. And then his dad was super duper mad at him, and so chased him off basically with like a club. And so he dropped his last name completely. And what he when Mina and him got married, he wanted to take on her last name, but they both decided that probably wasn't for the best, considering they were staying in the town that they had been living in for a long time, because people would look down on them for that, and he didn't want anyone to look down on Mina or think that he wasn't good enough for her. So he created his own last name. But he only used it on like official documents.
Yeah, that's all this detail it's incredible. And
Yeah.
I know a large part of the regression was leading up to fighting in the actual war.
Yeah.
And most of the regression was talking about Mina and his son and his life up to that point, and the war was something that was avoided. But let's move into the first scene after this. The first scene that you remember upon entering the battleground?
Okay. All I could do. Okay, I was math. I keep saying it was like me and Matthew were the same person at times, but we were also different at times. If that makes sense. Like we were the
Yeah, it
same.
does.
Sorry. So I keep saying I, and then I switch to we, and then I switch to I again. So sorry if that keeps happening.
No, it's fine. You do you.
Thanks. So there was gunfire, and I kept saying, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no," and then also, "Oh God, oh God." And I had a helmet on, like the bucket helmets they had. I don't remember the whole helmet attire, but I was clutching a gun in my hands, and I was hidden behind a tank. And there was heavy fire, and I was sure I was going to die, and I saw people dying around me. And then while I was seeing the scene, I said I saw people in cages like animals, children. And he talked about, sorry, I'm just looking through my notes. It's a little scatterbrained because I was just remembering stuff.
It's completely fine.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So he was behind the tank, and we looked around, and the city, he was in Germany, and the city was bombed to hell, in his words. The buildings were so far gone, I was afraid to touch them in case they would fall on me. And he said, "Those poor people, excuse my language, may that Hitler die and be tormented in hell," is what he said. That's a direct quote from him. Because he was remembering seeing children in cages, like, in his words, God-damned animals. And then he went on to talk about his friend, whose name started with a J, and that he might have been a spy for Germany, like planted in their ranks. But that they found out that he didn't want to be a spy, and he actually didn't want to work for Germany because, he thought what they were doing was horrible, and he didn't believe what they were saying. But their family had been captured. His family had been captured specifically. And then Matthew was really sad because he died, and he knew that his friend Jay had died. And then I saw Matthew killing people, and I saw the light leaving their eyes, and Matthew said, "They say it gets easier to kill people, but that's just not true. The thought of their families waiting for them never makes it easier." And then, sorry, this part was a little traumatizing, to be honest. It flashed to black after I talked about murdering people and telling you that I hope you never have to go to war because it's terrible. That scene flashed to black, and then I opened my eyes and I turned. We were searching for survivors after a battle. It was near the end of the war, I think, and we were searching for survivors. Be it Germany, or be it Germans or Americans or English, anyone who was alive, we were fixing to help them. And I turned around the side of a tank that had been submerged in something, probably rubble, and a man jumped out from behind the tank and stabbed me in the chest. Sorry. It was pretty horrifying, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that is horrifying. And that's probably the hardest part of doing these regressions is reliving that death scene.
Yeah, and this one was actually really tough because he stabbed me in the chest with a bayonet, I assume. And the hatred and anger in his eyes of me, most probably because I was just an American, was horrifying to watch. It was like seeing a monster from, bedtime nightmares come out into real life to get you. So he jumped out and stabbed me. And I don't know if I made this detail. I don't know if I said this already, but it was all in black and white, except for very few key things. The person who stabbed me, who was a German, his eyes were blue, like shockingly white blue. Mina's eyes, which I can't remember. I wrote it down, but I think they might have been brown. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, so it was mostly eyes that were colored, but the German specifically were what stood out. I actually was frozen in that scene for quite a bit. I kept basically screaming, "Oh God, oh God. I'm gonna die, oh God." I was actually very distressed in this, and you had to calm me down.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, you're that one, out of all the regressions I've done, that's one of the most difficult ones I've ever actually had to do because of the pure terror.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty scary. And that at that point is when I remembered that Mina was pregnant. I went from screaming, "Oh God," to "I can't leave Mina. She's pregnant," in a very soft whisper. I don't know if you remembered that, but I went from very loud to very quiet when I remembered that Mina was pregnant. It was really sad. So I was stuck in the scene until you snapped me out of it. And when you snapped me out of it, the little white girl appeared by my shoulder and touched my shoulder. And then I was looking down on the scene of the man stabbing me to death. And I was just looking down on it. And then I was in the black space again. And I was just freaking devastated that I had to leave Mina. Like, I didn't even care that I died. I was just so sad that I had to leave Mina. And Mathieu said, "I don't want to curse that man, but damn him for taking me from my family."
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we were in the black space, and you asked me if I would thank the little girl for taking me to see Mathieu. And at that point, I was still Mathieu, and Mathieu did not want to thank her for showing him the scenes that he had been shown because he did not want to see, him dying again and feeling those emotions. But he did end up thanking her. He patted her on the head and gave her a nod. And then it was actually kind of heartbreaking. He asked you if he could go back and look at his family one more time.
Yeah, and I find that really interesting. It's really weird. There's certain people that are more in tune to these kinds of things, and it's almost like the past self or the past being kind of takes over and wants to visit the memory of their loved ones one more time. Because another one that I did, the guy asked, or the past life also asked to go back and look at his family one more time, or specifically his daughter playing on a play set that he had purchased
Oh,
for his daughter. And I think a lot of the time, in my experience anyway, they like to go back and get just a little bit of closure to see their family one last time, or their loved one last time before they exit the session, which is interesting. It's really strange to me. And it really makes you wonder what's actually going on. How much consciousness is left? Is it all just inside of
right.
us? It really is. Very, very interesting. So it's interesting that you bring that up, that because I've had that happen to me multiple times where someone who died prematurely or before they were ready to die, they wanted to go back one more time and just essentially just watch a scene play out.
Right. Yeah, it was really sad. He wanted to just stay there forever, actually. Watching it. He was in when he in the first it went back to the scene where he walked in to see her humming and doing the dishes. So instead of just standing there sitting at the table looking at her, he stood up from the table and he walked over there and he hugged her from behind, kissed her on the cheek, and watched his son playing in the backyard with their dog, which he called a mutt. He just sat there and watched it until you were like, okay, it's really time. And he said, okay. And then you asked him if he had advice for me. And it was actually really.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
you can share it if you don't have to share it if it's too personal. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all good.
I just had a comment. A lot of the time these people that die prematurely, they do want to stay in that scene for a long time. And it's really heartbreaking for me to have to pull them out of that. But you have to bring them back. You have to bring you back to who you currently are and out of that regression. And I remember with Matthew, he was like, okay. He took a deep breath and like a shuddering sigh. And then the other one that I had where they wanted to go back and watch his daughter, he sat there and staring, and I'm happy to let them get closure and things like that. But it's just really strange. And they usually make comments like, time to man up or something like that. Time to man up. Can't stay here forever, things like that. And then we can move on. So sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make that comment really quickly.
No, it's okay. That's actually very interesting. I do. We'll get to this later. I think you had a question about this for me later, but I do have a comment about that at a later time. If you want to keep talking about that specific.
No,
thing.
Go ahead and
no. I want to keep doing.
Comment.
I want to keep doing this part because I just wanted to mention that when you asked Matthew if he had any advice for me, Taylar specifically, and he kept calling me, that girl, and Taylar, and like my name, and like calling me that girl, because he called you my boy a lot. He said, Ian, my boy, or he called you son, which is really weird because I know I'm younger than you by 4 years. So it's a little strange to be calling you, my son and boy.
Yeah, it was weird. I was truly talking to a different person.
Yeah.
Taylar was not. I was not talking to Taylar as I know you now.
Yeah, because I don't call anybody boy or son. I call people kid, but that's it. It's not really a part of my vocabulary to call people boy. But yeah, when you asked that, it felt like he was looking through my memories about who I was in this life. It wasn't like invasive, but it was interesting to feel that thing. It's a very, very strange thing to happen, is someone looking through your memories who is not you.
So I have a question about that. Was it, when this happened to you, did it feel like it was a foreign, like a foreign presence doing this to you, or did it feel like it was just part of yourself looking through your memories, like a different part of yourself? Like, describe that to me a little bit.
It felt like a different person was looking through my consciousness.
So it didn't necessarily feel like part of yourself then, or did it kind of feel like yourself?
It didn't really feel like myself. Like at that point, after he said goodbye to Mina, I was now watching him and my spirit guardian standing together and looking through my memories, like on YouTube, if you're on a mobile device and you start swiping and it just goes really fast through like little screenshots, right? It was like
Oh,
watching him.
that's very interesting. There was almost like a supervision then, so that he couldn't go rifling through willy-nilly your memories, just like an overview. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, and it wasn't like he was just doing it without my permission. Like I knew he was doing it, and I probably couldn't have stopped him if I wanted to, but my spirit guide was like hawkeyeing him over his shoulder, just watching him look through my little screenshots of memories. So it wasn't like he was like in detail watching like a movie. It was like, yeah, okay, I see what's going on with this little YouTube screenshot.
Right. So it was supervised then.
Yes, it was. It wasn't
Okay,
him.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was you would probably want me to point that out, that he was looking through my stuff. And then he gave me some advice, which I feel like might be a little too personal.
Yeah, you don't have to share that at all. That's totally personal to you.
Yeah. And so then the spirit, and then you said, okay, it's really done this time. And Matthew said goodbye to you. I think. I can't remember. It's a little blurry at the ends of the stuff. Like,
Yeah, he and Matthew did say goodbye, and he left me with some advice, which was interesting.
I feel like that actually happens a lot with me, because 2 out of the 3 sessions that you've done for me, the person has given you advice, especially the latest one that you've done.
Yeah, and that one was really, really interesting to me. I'll have to have you back on sometime to talk about that, because that was really interesting. I'll save it for another time, but like a sneak preview for the audience is a little girl was a visitor essentially. She said that she wasn't one of Taylor's past lives, but I had actually seen her while I was attempting to do a regression for myself at one point, where I was kicked out of a regression by what I perceive as my spirit guide. So I'll have to have you back to talk about that, because that was really interesting. And you didn't even know anything about that beforehand.
No.
But yeah, let's that. And is that the end of your experience?
Yeah, and then at that point, once again, it got really fuzzy, and then I was outside of the pyramid, and then from there, when you take me out of it, it just basically rewinds until I'm back into my own self. Like my body like walks backwards, and then I was falling upwards towards the jump off point, and then I was walking backwards down the staircase, and then it was me again. And that's how it ended.
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
How did you feel coming out of that experience?
Really freaking sad. I'm not gonna lie here. Like,
Yeah, well, it was traumatizing. Even for me, I was like on the verge of tears when I was regressing you, to be honest. It was really it was really difficult to sit there and listen to that.
Yeah. It was really rough. And I consider myself a very tender-hearted person. Like, I can cry over like the smallest things. Like, I can't even watch Old Yeller, or I'll just break down and have a mental breakdown for 3 hours because I'm so sad. So coming out of that, like, and feeling someone else's sorrow, and like Matthew was devastated. Like, he didn't even care. I already said this, but he didn't even care that he died. He cared that he was leaving his family because he didn't know what they were going to do without him. It was a different time. Like, nowadays, a woman can go out and get a job, any job. Back then, it was really hard. He didn't know what she was going to do to support, James, his kid, and their new kid on the way. He didn't know what they were going to do, and that devastated him. So I had those lingering feelings coming out of that, and I was just crying on your couch for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I remember. How would you say that the experience that you had as Matthew impacted your belief system?
I don't know, not much, honestly. I don't really. I just think maybe there might be multiple versions of a past life. I've never had a regression where it felt like someone had died peacefully. Honestly, I think that maybe these might not even be past lives. Like maybe one or two out of all of them might be, but I think maybe that this might be way out there. I think these might actually be ghosts that we allow to inhabit our body to tell their story, so maybe they can get some closure. Because especially for the last two that you did for me, it didn't feel really like I was that person. Like I was them, but I was also not. I was Taylar looking through their eyes at their lives, feeling the emotions that they were putting out there, from their trauma, their sadness.
Yeah, and I've heard that theory before, that essentially that there's almost like an ecosystem for spirits, and like fragments of your spirit can almost like, the theory where matter can't be created or destroyed, it just takes different forms.
Right.
Same thing with the spirits. I've heard the theory that, essentially like fragments of other people's spirits can come together to form your spirit,
Right.
and that's where these are coming from.
Yeah.
But who's to say? It's an interesting phenomenon. So with that being said, what do you think happens after we die? Do you still think that we just kind of end?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I think that there is an energy that people leave behind after they die. It might be a ghost, it might be a spirit, and there might be no heaven or hell, and we just wander the earth forever, because once again, matter can't be created or destroyed. That's a fact. So we might just wander around as consciousnesses or feelings of just our greatest emotional baggage held on forever, which would be a sad thought, to be honest. Or we could just be, spirits created from multiple other spirits. I don't really know. I'm just a human. I'm not like, I don't know anything.
Yeah, same here. I'm just a human. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to come on the show.
Yeah, of course.
That's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Taylar for coming onto the show and sharing her incredible experience, and I'd also like to thank you for tuning into the show. If you like the show, I'd appreciate you sharing it with others that you think would enjoy. Remember, if you've had an experience and you'd like to be on the show or have me tell your story, email me. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I'd love to have you on the show.